Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Another week, another episode. This is Stats Over Politics. As always, I'm your host, Sean Holko, alongside my guys, Mr. Jaevon Toddy, Mr. Kevin Dent. It's another week, another episode, but it's another month and another episode because we went on a bit of a summer break, and we've been doing this now consistently for almost 4 years. And so everybody got to take a break from time to time. It was the dead period of the summer. NBA action ended. And we were basically just left with MLB and WNBA. So we were like, hey, let's take a little break. We're back now. It is August 24th, 2026. Happy Kobe Day to all of you who observe it. Also, happy birthday to the late Kobe Bryant yesterday. And so we're back for another episode of Stats Over Politics, episode number 195. Since we last spoke to you all, Kevin and I did do a new segment with a social media exclusive, which you can check out on YouTube and on Instagram and Twitter if you haven't already seen it. But we are now back on YouTube with a live stream, Twitch, as well as Instagram. And now it's time to start cranking out the content again, guys. And so without further ado, Mr. Kevin Dent, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well, man. We had some technical difficulties before the show, but we're going to be here to give you guys the content that you're looking for. Like Sean said, there's been a huge gap in videos. We've new jobs. Someone had a baby. Just we're leveling up in life for you guys. You can't give you guys our full 100% unless we're going out there in our real lives and give it 100%. So happy to be back.
I'm happy to be back as well. And speaking of now a father of two, we always joke about him being the pod father of young Mako, who we see every Victory Monday. But now a father of two young boys, none other than Mr. Jaevon Toddy. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
How you doing, Toddy?
Hey, man, good to be back. Had to figure out what's going on with the young ones, so we're back now. Football season's here. I'm excited. A lot has transpired since the last time we spoke. We just jumped in the future. All of a sudden, it's like the blip, the marble blip. Thanos snapped his fingers, and now all of a sudden we're back. It's football season, so hey, man, we're here. I'm at Sally's house. A lot of people are like, "It's not where you usually record at. Where are you at, man?" Yeah, at my cousin's house. Okay, relax.
And for the loyal listeners, obviously, Cousin Sel, he is a frequent guest here on the podcast through 195 episodes, and so if you know, you know.
Yeah, the real ones know. The day ones know. All of his crazy takes. One might recall him saying the Raiders are going to win the AFC West. Now, we're not going to bring that up. But that is one of his takes. I'd say he's known for, but also a Niner fan as well.
Right. Yeah. And I'm in the process of moving right now. And during this process, I was going through boxes that I hadn't gone through in like a year or two. And I found the legendary notepad, and I found some absolutely freezing cold takes that I will be saving
you gotta read
for
those.
episode 200. Yeah, we're gonna be exposing those ice cold takes, and I think Marcel is saying that it was like the 2023 Raiders were gonna win the AFC West, led by Jimmy Garoppolo, and so that might be on the notepad. Man, yeah, exactly. Right, and so we'll get to those in a few weeks, probably in about a month as we celebrate episode number 200. But we got a couple weeks to go before we get there, and we'll be talking all about the notepad. But since we're talking about cousin Marcellus, he did say in the pre-show meeting, just as we were chopping it up real quickly. He was like, "Hey, you remember my take from last season, though? You all laughed at me when I said that the Panthers were going to win the division, and the Panthers did go on to win the division. So kudos to Marcellus. He's a hot take machine." But what'd you say, Kevin?
A broken clock is right twice a day.
Exactly. Right. He's a hot take machine, but when he hits on it, you got to give credit where it's due. So shout out to cousin Marcellus. We appreciate you for always coming on the podcast, but also tuning in and being live and in the comments. And I just wanted to let everybody know it's the three of us right now, but it's almost football season, which means none other than our man, Mr. Kaz Johnson of Just Casually, will be rejoining us very, very soon, as we see for the YouTube, Instagram, and Twitch audience, when Kaz lost a bet and had to throw on that Deebo Samuel jersey. And now number 19 is back in the Bay since we last spoke to you all. But we're going to talk about that later on. We'll talk about it, Kevin, when Deebo is scoring touchdowns again every single week for the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, you heard me right. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it, as we have a couple of quarterbacks who are on new teams. I mean, one's on a fresh, brand new team, and the other guy, we've seen him so infrequently on this newer team that it's almost like he's on a new team. And those two quarterbacks are Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson, who have been named week 1 starting quarterbacks for their respective teams. And so, Kevin, I'm going to talk to you first. You can choose to focus on Kyler or Deshaun or them both. Just what was your reaction to finding out that Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray are going to be starting for the Browns and the Vikings, respectively?
I think everybody in the world besides Wesley and Keith thought JJ was not going to be the starting quarterback. Just to see, where they went from having Kirk Cousins, you're competing to win the division, you're competing for playoff games. Then you swap out for Sam Darnold. You're winning playoff games. You're top of the division, and then you go with the young guy on top of not paying Sam Darnold. So now I feel like they're kind of. It worked out so many times. The one time it really didn't work, it really didn't work. He was a number 10 overall pick. You got him on a rookie deal. And to have a guy like Kyler Murray come in said a lot, because a lot of people believe, including myself, that Kyler Murray still has a lot to play. Still has a lot in the tank. The Cardinals it's just hard, man. When you think about it, throughout his tenure, the Rams won a Super Bowl. The Seahawks won a Super Bowl. The Niners went to 2 Super Bowls. So it's not like he's playing in a slap big division. He's playing against a lot of talent, and he doesn't have similar talent. So this Minnesota Vikings team is probably been the best team he's ever had. And I get it. You got the Michael Wilsons, the James Connors, the Marvin Harrisons. None of those guys are Justin Jefferson. None of those guys are Jordan Addison. So they have a lot of talent on this room. Having a guy like Kevin O'Connell, having the defense that they have, this team is going to be very, very good. They're just a quarterback away. And even with J.J. McCarthy playing the way he played, they went 9-8. So to have a plus 500 record with a quarterback that's no longer starting goes to show a lot about Kevin O'Connell and what that defense brings night in and night out. Now, going into Deshaun Watson, man, I truly don't understand what happened. I base this off, similar to what Jalen Hurts' first year as a starter was. We just got rid of our big-time guy in Carson Wentz. We had 2 first-round picks, and we said, you know what, Jalen? You have 17 weeks to show us why we should not draft a quarterback. And I feel like the Browns are setting their team back by not doing that, because you're not going to re-sign Deshaun Watson. So what is the point of him playing? Go out there and see what you have with a guy like Shedeur Sanders. You got him on a 5th year. You got him in the 5th-round contract. So if you can use those 2 second-round picks next year's draft in a loaded draft, you can go get some weapons. I mean, I know you just got his left tackle, his 2 receivers, his tight end, and his running back all on rookie deals. So you're building a team with young players that are very, very good. Imagine being able to add 2 more young guys to that room and build around a guy like Shedeur Sanders. And I get it. You have the Arch Mannings, you have the Lenore Sellers, Julian Sayin, Dante Moore. Like, the list goes on and on and on with the quarterbacks that are coming out in this class. So everyone's very excited about the new shiny toy. But if Shedeur can get the job done, imagine being able to add a guy like Jeremiah Smith, or Cam Coleman. I know Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston are very good, but they are not the 2 guys we just mentioned. So being able to add a piece like that, or even on the defensive end, going to get a Leonard Moore. We all understand that the Browns aren't going to be good. So being able to use that top pick towards something that's not a quarterback will go a long way. So I really hope, he stinks it up. The city has spoken, and they prefer Shedeur. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how that goes. He backtracked his comments today. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I think they played on Saturday, and he was basically acknowledging how he expected a different reaction from the crowd, and they just booed him. So it's a lot that goes into it. And then he mentioned, when he tore his Achilles 2 years ago, similar to when Kevin Durant tore his Achilles in Toronto, they clapped and they cheered. So for that to be your now starting quarterback and you cheered for him when he tore his Achilles, it's going to be very interesting. But, Todd Monken said that it gives them the best chance to win. So now it's just time to sit back and see if it happens.
Yeah, that's the really interesting thing about what's going on in Cleveland right now, as Deshaun expressed in that press conference that you alluded to, is that no matter how he, at least in his opinion, no matter how he plays, he's going to get booed by that fan base. And he talked about how he and his family, or he at least alluded to how he and his family feel about the Cleveland fans, and how he just kept saying, you know what, it's not worth me speaking about here. I'm going to keep it in-house as far as how my family and I feel about the fact that when I had a season-ending injury that they cheered about it. And he basically just said, no matter how great I play, they're going to boo me. And it doesn't have to do with anything on the field. It has to do with what has happened off the field, allegedly. And we all know and we all joke about Deshaun Watson and massage parlors, things, this and that. But that's kind of what Deshaun was alluding to when it came to no matter how he plays, the Cleveland fans aren't going to be happy with him. And let's not forget, last year it may have been as a replacement, but Shedeur Sanders was a Pro Bowler as a rookie. So now he's going back to the bench. Toddy, what was your reaction to Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray being named Week 1 starting quarterbacks for their respective teams of the Browns and the Vikings?
I guess I'll piggyback off of what Kevin was talking about with the Browns. Deshaun Watson. I'd say the reason why I can give you about 260 million reasons why he may or may not be starting. I don't think this has anything to do with talent. I don't think this is merit-based at all. The Browns went through a whole new coaching staff, obviously hiring Todd Monken in the offseason with a guy in Shedeur Sanders, a Pro Bowl quarterback, Shedeur Sanders. And Deshaun Watson, once upon a time, was also a Pro Bowler. So you got 2 Pro Bowl quarterbacks on the roster. I just think if anybody with eyes or anybody that can visually watch the games that are being played and maybe the clips that are being put out on Instagram or Twitter, wherever you get your information, you can see that Deshaun Watson is not good at football anymore. I don't know if it's injury. I don't know if it's his confidence. I think it could be obviously a mixture of both. Fans booing him when he tore his Achilles, so he obviously might feel some type of way about the fans booing him when all that went down. But we all recognize what the situation is when acquiring Deshaun Watson, all the things that came out about him and his legal activities, I should say. And then you draft a guy in Shedeur Sanders. Obviously, there's a lot of hype around him coming out of Colorado. So much coming into the draft and then falling to the 5th round, and then eventually getting a chance to play in Cleveland last year. Just such a bizarre situation. I think Shedeur is obviously the better quarterback. I just think right now Jimmy Haslam is getting in his own way, and the Browns are going to Brown. I think if they could, I think the Browns would cut Deshaun Watson, but his cap hit is so massive that it's just like, if we cut this man, like our team we're literally handcuffed for the next however many years are left on his contract. So by default, he has to play. I think there's similar situations going on in Sacramento. Zach Levine has a very large cap hit. Can't cut that guy. You do, you're stuck with his, situation. So I think Kingsman can relate to that.
Yeah,
forward.
everything circles back to the Kings with you, doesn't it? just like Kevin with the 49ers.
So I just think that's really the only reason why. I mean, I think we do see Shedeur end up playing probably sometime this season. Don't know when. I just think he's just so bad. I remember when his first game back, I gambled on them, obviously. I was like, Deshaun, man, he's going to beat the Cowboys. Cowboys beat the shit out of the Browns on the road, too. That's when I knew, first of all, I've never bet on Deshaun Watson. Second off, how good are the Browns? Going to Kyler Murray. Now, I know Wesley is very excited about this. I don't know about what it is with Kyler Murray. I just think he's like in year 7. So I don't know if it's like, okay, we're going to get a new Kyler Murray. I think he is what he is. He's ran through 3-4 coaches in Arizona. I'm not sure off
I
the
think
top of my
3.
head, but he's had his fair share of coaches. He's had the incidents, contract stipulations about him watching film and playing Call of Duty. Like, they put that in his contract, and then he got out. They're like, "Oh God, I don't know what you guys are talking about. There's nothing in the contract. What do you mean?" And so that's weird. I just think JJ McCarthy is just not, I wouldn't say ready because he played a healthy amount in college. I just think, obviously, Kyler Murray coming out, number 1 overall pick, rookie of the year once upon a time, he has the experience. And I think with Kevin O'Connell, an offensive guru, with a Jordan Addison and obviously a Justin Jefferson, he has weapons surrounding him, and he's on a very, very team-friendly deal. He arguably has a top 5 defense, and Brian Flores calling the defense over there in Minnesota. I just think it's kind of just the table set for him to basically not fail. And I agree with Kevin. This is probably the best roster he's ever had. I do think in Arizona he had opportunities, but at the same time, I don't think they should have been that bad at the same time. So I do agree it wasn't his fault, mixed in with he could have played better. So at the same time, like, just as far as organizations go, there is like a totem pole in the NFL on like who's like at the top of the league, who's like one of the best organizations versus one of the worst organizations. I think the 2 organizations that we were talking about, the Browns and Arizona, probably somewhere at the bottom. As far as organization, team, head coach, the Browns are always rotating head coaches. Cardinals are always rotating head coaches versus like teams like the Vikings, the Chiefs. You got the Eagles. I'd say they have some sort of stability when it comes to their front office. The Niners have had the same front office head coach 10 years plus. So I just think when a lot does come. I've said this on numerous podcasts in the past. It really does matter what team you do go to and who is your GM, who is your head coach, because all that plays into a factor of an organization being dysfunctional or not. And I think Kyler's going to a very functional organization, and it'll show. And I think he's going to play really well. A lot of people are looking at Kyler in fantasy teams, so watch out for that. I haven't drafted our fantasy league yet, but somebody to look out for in fantasy, Kyler Murray.
Yeah, the Stats Over Politics Fantasy Football League is going to be coming back real soon, as we're going to be drafting coming up very, very soon. And so Toddy may be going for Kyler Murray now. We shall see. And speaking of fantasy, and since we were talking about our friend of the show, Wes, I mean, seems like Wes may be making a long-term investment in Kyler Murray, not only with his favorite team, but potentially in a dynasty league. We shall have to see what Wes's strategy is there and how much he truly believes in Kyler Murray. Because if he really believes that Kyler Murray is the savior for his Minnesota Vikings, then there would be no reason for him not to attach himself to him for years to come. But we shall see. My quick thoughts on these 2 starters is, Deshaun Watson, it's a sad situation when it comes to Deshaun Watson, just because like he grew up with very little. I remember there being a viral story once Deshaun got into the NFL, or at least to Clemson, but there was a viral story about former Atlanta Falcon Warwick Dunn, who helped gift Deshaun and his family a house as part of a charity move. And for Deshaun to have a story like that, get to Clemson, tear it up, lead the Tigers to a national championship, get to the NFL, he does phenomenal for the Texans, overcomes a second ACL tear early on in his NFL career, does what he does with the Texans, and then shit kind of hit the fan due to his off-the-field activities that are alleged. Again, just like Justin Tucker, same situation, alleged. But nevertheless, Deshaun Watson, I think, as you guys have alluded to, because of that huge contract that he signed with the Texans and then getting traded to Cleveland, and Cleveland immediately giving him a contract extension, which is questionable in itself. he kind of made himself uncuttable, as has already been said. And so Kevin raised a very interesting point that I'm kind of, conspiracy theory here, or just trying to look at it with a third eye. The point that Kevin brought up that I think could be going on in Cleveland is like, maybe this is a tank job. Maybe they're like, you know what? Shador will lead us to some more wins. We can't get Jeremiah Smith, or we can't get the next best player coming out in the 2027 draft if Shador leads us to 7-8 wins versus Deshaun might lead you to 2 or 3 wins. Who knows? And so that's one side of it. And we group, or at least I, for the sake of time, I grouped these two quarterbacks together just because they have both been very recently named starters for week 1. But it's polar opposites when it comes to the motivation as to why these guys were named the starting quarterbacks. I just talked about the Deshaun Watson side for the perennial losers that are the Cleveland Browns. But then on the other side, you have the Minnesota Vikings, who have a solid team. I mean, they have one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and they drafted a quarterback out of the university up north that could not complete a pass to the best wide receiver in the NFL. And so now they're going with a former number 1 overall pick who, in my humble opinion, Kyler kind of got a raw deal during the end of his tenure in Arizona. I mean, okay, yeah, he's a shorter quarterback, but his athleticism is just absolutely off the charts. And I think back to his most memorable moment, in my opinion, in Arizona was when Kyler hurled a 60-yard Hail Mary at the end of a regular season game, and I think they beat the Bills. And it was just a crazy play showing off his arm strength, which also got him drafted in the top 10 of the MLB draft right before he ended up getting drafted number 1 overall to the NFL. So Kyler is one of those all-time athletes. I mean, you can put him in the discussion with a Bo Jackson or a Deion Sanders just for the fact that he could have played 2 sports if he wanted to, but he decided to dedicate his life and career to the NFL. Now he got humbled a little bit, being let go by Arizona. He's getting another opportunity. I don't know the validity of this, but I did see something recently that said that Kyler's favorite team growing up was the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know if that's true because he grew up in Texas, but Kevin, you're shaking your head. Yes. Is that true, I guess?
Yeah, I've heard that story. He's kind of like me. His whole family grew up a Vikings or the Texas fan. Sorry, Dallas Cowboys fans. He kind of at a spike chose the Vikings.
Nice. So there you go. Now he's getting to play for his childhood.
And I quote, "The Cowboys were ass."
The Vikings weren't much better.
Yeah, but also you think back to the Vikings of like the early 2000s, the late 90s. I mean, didn't they have Dante Culpepper, who like Kyler could look up to as a black quarterback before black quarterbacks were really like a common thing in the NFL? And so like that also makes sense. And so now, I mean, imagine if you guys got to go play for one of your favorite teams. I mean, I got a Kings jersey with my last name on the back, but I'm never going to see myself on an NBA court. And so getting to play for your favorite team and your favorite sport, that's got to be like living a childhood dream. And so now Kyler has this huge redemption arc where it's like, okay, Arizona gave up on you. Now you get to go prove it and go play for your favorite team. You beat out the incumbent quarterback who really didn't stand a chance. And before they even started playing, you could just see the maturity level between a Kyler and a JJ McCarthy, where Kyler's saying, oh, yeah, quarterback battle, I'm ready for it. But JJ's my guy. We're building chemistry in the QB room. I'm learning from him. He's learning from me, yada, yada. And then you got JJ on the other side being bitter and childish and just being like, I don't know if there's much I can learn from him, this and that. And I'm like, come on, JJ. Like,
there go that Ohio State.
Learn a lot. Yeah, so now he's going to learn from the bench. So it's really interesting, just the polar opposite contrast of these 2 week 1 starting quarterbacks. But we'll see how it all shapes out. I think that the Vikings with Kyler Murray are a playoff team because we think back to what the Vikings did with Sam Darnold, and then they took a drop off a cliff really last year with JJ McCarthy. And if Kyler can play winning football, they will definitely contend. And I mean, the Lions dropped off a little bit. They lost David Montgomery. The Packers, we'll see what happens there. And then the Bears, they look pretty nice. So we could see 3 playoff teams from the NFC North. We shall see. But these were 2 of the latest quarterbacks to be named week 1 starters. And so we'll be covering it all throughout the NFL season. So make sure to stay tuned in here to Stats Over Politics as we continue here on episode number 195 of Stats Over Politics. Shaun Holko alongside Jaevon Toddy and Kevin Dent. I want to get to a couple of YouTube comments real quickly as Smooth says, "What's up? Miss you guys," as well as celebrating Toddy becoming a father of 2, as I know Smooth can relate to. And then he also says, "Can't trade him for anything if you don't play him." And so that's a great point as well when it comes to, I believe he may be alluding to Deshaun Watson right there. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know if anyone would want to trade for Deshaun Watson at this point, given just everything that's transpired. Like the Cleveland Browns were that desperate franchise. They had just given up on Baker Mayfield, quickly realized that they made a mistake. And it's like, okay, the Houston Texans no longer want Deshaun Watson. Like, let's take a stab in the dark here. And it has not gone well at all. Meanwhile, they got a guy who fell to them in the 5th round. He showed signs of potential. And they're like, we want a tank. So we're going to start the $260 million quarterback. And shout out to Uncle Manny who says, "Welcome back, guys. Always tune in. We appreciate you." And Andrew on YouTube says, #free Enes Kanter. If you're tuned into the WNBA, then you know what Andrew's saying. Natasha Cloud, she came after Enes Kanter last night, and that was pretty entertaining. If you don't know what I'm alluding to, just look up Enes Kanter freedom, and you'll learn all about what's going on in the WNBA right now. As we continue here on episode 195 of Stats Over Politics, guys, let's continue with the NFL and get to some interesting news as it pertains to not just the NFL, but football in general, between the college level to professional. And that is this new 5-for-5 rule that has been initiated in college football. And it's a rule that's kind of still, because of COVID, you could say, I guess, because we saw some of the rules being tweaked when it comes to eligibility and whether or not players can redshirt, so on and so forth. And now we're seeing from the high school class of 2022 that they're now being given an extra year of college eligibility, which has now led to the fact that they just came up with this ruling in August, but players have to declare for the NFL draft by December, January, February at the latest to participate in the April draft. You got guys who got drafted late. Their draft stock may not have been as high as they wanted it to be, but they ran out of eligibility, so they entered the draft, or they got undrafted. They signed as undrafted free agents, and now we're seeing 32 NFL rosters being cut down from 90 to 53. That's 37 guys getting cut from one team. You do the quick math. I'm actually good at mental math, but I can't do 37 times 32 in my head that quickly. 1,184 players are being cut from NFL rosters, just going from the beginning of training camp until week 1 of the NFL regular season. So you have nearly 1,200 players being cut, and of those 1,200, you would imagine maybe 50, maybe up to 100 just came out of college, and they might have been in the high school class of 2022, and they exhausted their eligibility, or so they thought. So now this new rule allows them the option to go back to college. And this is really just crazy. I could yammer on about it forever, but Kevin, you and I were talking about it a little bit in our Instagram group chat earlier. And so I know you got a lot to say, but Toddy, I'm going to go to you first for this topic. Just what are your thoughts on this 5-for-5 rule that's allowing? I mean, I just saw Drew Rosenhaus on the Pat McAfee show. He's a noted agent, and he has a client who played at Ole Miss. Now he was a Cleveland Brown. The Cleveland Browns just cut him as long as he clears waivers. Now he's lined up to play for LSU this upcoming season as long as he clears waivers. It is a shit show, in my opinion. I even saw, I believe it was Bob Chesney, the new coach at UCLA, say college football is basically becoming the minor leagues for the NFL. It's like AAA for the NFL, where it's like, oh, a guy can't quite get to the NFL yet. He's going to go back to college, aka he can't crack it at the MLB level. Now he's going back down to AAA until he can get to that level. It's very complicated, and college football, as we once knew it, even 10 years ago, is completely different. So, Toddy, just what was your reaction to finding out some of this news?
Well, I think for a lot of the players that are getting cut and going back to college, easy math. I can stay on a practice squad and make about 7,200 a week, which is amazing. Can you imagine if I'm getting paid $7,200 a week? Me? Oh my goodness. Okay, scratch that. $7,200 a week. Oh, LSU. Ring ring. Hey, Lane Kiffin, you're offering me $400,000. Appreciate it. All right, guys. I'm an LSU Tiger again. So I mean, it's really just quick math. I mean, anybody, if you have it. And another thing is the NCAA literally has no power whatsoever. Every time they get sued, they lose. So I just think with all of the injunctions, I mean, hell, they had a guy get caught for gambling. He said he claimed mental health, went to court, and won. Like, he's eligible to play. He could have been eligible to play, right? Like, got caught in gambling for his former team. Said, hey, mental health guys, blah, blah, blah. Got the best lawyer. Went and did whatever it was. Got granted an injunction, a restraining order against the NCAA. Could have played. It got so bad that the NCAA was like, teams were saying we're not going to play this team. So it got so bad to where he had to go out and not play. I saw a quote from Lane Kiffin earlier today. He was saying that if we don't sign him, some other team's going to sign him. I think I saw Oregon head coach Dan Lanning say just how crazy it is, and basically it's the wild, wild west. And I don't really think it's that bad because the guys that are coming back aren't like difference makers, I would say. Like somebody that's going to make or break your roster. I think those guys are already set in stone on your team. I just think these guys are just added depth, albeit they are like 6th and 7th year players, which is starting to get a little bit insane. Also heard something last year. The guy who caught the interception, like the game-sealing interception in the national championship game on Indiana, was a 7th-year player. So a lot of people weren't saying there wasn't too much rah-rah about that. It's a slippery slope when it comes to this whole NCAA injunction. I just think it comes down to the NCAA really has no power and really can't do anything to stop these guys from playing because they could sue them. They win the lawsuit. They get granted a year of eligibility. Really, I think guys could get up to 2 more years because they could just sue them again and just get another injunction and play on their 7th year. So I mean, it's just getting so crazy because it's like when you declare for the NFL draft, usually it's when you put your name in, you can't come back to college anymore. But now we're in a new age of NIL, transfer portal, and guys are on practice squads, but they're like they can't really make the team. So they're in that bubble of, okay, I'm not good enough to be on an NFL roster, but I can go back to college and I think with quarterbacks, this could be very lucrative for them because they could be 7th round undrafted versus I can go play quarterback and make $1.5 to $2 million as a quarterback. So I mean, it just at the same time, I just don't think it will be as much of okay, this team got this guy from this NFL roster. They're favorites to win a national championship. No, I don't think that's what this is. I just think these guys that are coming back weren't really necessarily good enough to play in the NFL. But if you were to get added to a college roster, you'll be added depth to that team. I think we'll start to see, because it's kind of, like I said, it's a slippery slope because you could have a guy that could come back to college, get hurt in college, ruin his draft stock or whatever it is, and when he tries to go back, doesn't really have any good film for NFL scouts. So, and then at the same time, you can have a guy who is on a practice squad. Somebody gets hurt on that said team. You can get called up from the practice squad, and you're in live games now. you're on the 53-man roster. And usually that's all it takes for a bunch of guys. I mean, we've heard stories about guys who are on the practice squad. Guys get hurt and they get called up that same week. They ball out, never look back. So I mean, like I said, it's a very slippery slope. I don't think it's too like, I get the outrage about it, but I don't think it's going to like put teams over the top when it comes to college football.
Yeah, and kind of following up on what you said, Toddy, also Kevin sent in our Instagram group chat what our coach, Ryan Day of the Ohio State University, said, and he wasn't happy with it at all. But he also, yes, OHIO, Toddy, I see you. But Ryan Day, he wasn't happy about it at all, and he was really dissatisfied just by what's going on. But he also said, but if some of our top competitors and teams that we're going to be playing a national championship for in the playoff are recruiting these guys and they're bringing these guys into their program to play against us, then he was basically saying how it puts them at a competitive disadvantage because then other teams are getting these guys who just got NFL experience. May not matter if they played that much throughout the preseason or not, but you're still in an NFL organization getting coached by professional coaches, and you're playing alongside guys that are true professionals, whether if it be a guy in his second year who just came out of college but has a year of experience, or an all-time vet who is a future Hall of Famer who they're learning from for a month or two. And that, to me, is a significant advantage. But hopefully this just stays as a one-time thing. I don't think it will stay as a one-time thing because we've already opened this can of worms. Yes, NIL is great because these athletes can make money off of their own name, image, and likeness after universities were making billions of dollars off of them, and the players were just getting a free education, free meals, and maybe a stipend per school year to basically pay for housing or whatever. And so I just feel like, man, it's tough. It's tough. I'm almost speechless when it comes to the state of college football nowadays. It's not the same anymore. But it's like, how can we find a balance to where things are fair, these guys are getting the most opportunities that they can, but also like keep it structured so it's still the game that we love. I don't know. I'm kind of dumbfounded by all of this. Kevin, how about you?
The game that we love, Sean, no longer exists. The dream is no longer to make it to the NFL because these guys made it. You know, we talk about a practice squad like it's the JV team. Like those are still the top 1% of the world to make it on a practice squad team. So it's like you dream your whole life to play in the NFL, to practice on these kind of fields, to play with these kind of players, and you get there, and because you have that fifth-year option, it kind of changes things. And Toddy, I don't think you're really giving this the full respect it needs. The guy that's going to LSU was a second-team All-SEC lineman. He's going to start. He's not a depth piece. You're not leaving the big dogs to go be on the bench with the JV team. Like, that's just not how it works. He's going on this team to make a difference to help win a national championship. And it's going to be interesting because we had this same conversation last year when the NBA was allowing players that didn't appear in an NBA game. So if you just went to you got drafted and you only won on a two-way contract, you never played in an NBA game, you were able to go back to college. And they bit that in the butt real quick and they stopped doing it. So I don't see this being a thing that's going to continue just because it opens a can of worms that I don't know if the world's really ready for because it shows that the dream is just to get paid. Is there a problem with that? Hell no. We all want to get paid. Toddy just said, if you give me $7,200 a week, I'll sign up to do whatever. The goal is to get money now. Like the goal is no longer to make it to the NFL because, like, perfect example, Arville Reese, Ohio State, they asked him, what have you spent your NFL money on? He's like, nothing. I've been making this kind of money for 2 years. Like, I've been making this money. So coming to the NFL, the dream is no longer to play in the NFL. The dream is to rack up money. You're seeing teams or seeing top players put these crazy rules in their top five because they're getting the most NIL back. So it's like the dream is no longer to make it to the NFL. The dream is to get rich. Is that a problem? Absolutely not. I'm sure if we all were in the same situation, we would do that. But to make the 50-man, to make the cut, to be on an NFL roster, to be a practice squad player, to be living your day-to-day dream and reverting to go back to college, I don't really know how I feel about it. But like I said, I don't think this is going to last very long because the NBA tried it and it didn't last very long either. So, and it's unfortunate because the other side we're talking about is when you join a team, the roster is set in college. So now you're taking a spot from a kid who's been working all spring and summer.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kevin, because I was never the athlete that either of you were. But I mean, just when you said that, it made me think back to my sophomore year at Rosemont High School when I tried out for the JV basketball team, and I went to 3 months of conditioning, and I ended up being the final player that was cut. And the reason that I was told I was cut instead of basically the guy that I was going head to head with for the last spot is because he went to the spring conditioning. And so it's like ultimately I was butthurt about getting cut, but that guy put in more time than I did. And so ultimately he got rewarded. And so as Kevin was alluding to, you have the guys that have been there and have been putting in the work, dedicated to that program and to that team. And then you got the guys who are just showing up because they are a noted player from college football, as he was alluding to with the guy who was going from Ole Miss to the Browns to LSU. And so you got a guy with more college experience who's now taking a spot, and he is basically just getting shown in the front door while the other guy has been there working their tail off all off season and just trying to prepare for the upcoming season. And so it's really interesting what's going on in college football right now. And so I am interested to see how this continues to develop and also how it's going to affect the game this year, Toddy, because if you have guys going from an NFL training camp roster to back to college, and again, hopefully this is just a 1-year thing, but if you got those guys coming back and then they are that star player and they are putting the team over the hump to win a championship or at least win a lot of games to get to that college football playoff, then that's a true difference maker. And that's something that a year ago or ever before, they wouldn't have had the ability or the eligibility to do so. And now these guys could end up being difference makers that end up being why a team wins a championship. So I'm interested to see how it plays out. I hope that this is isolated, as Kevin was saying, compared to the NBA. But we shall wait and see. It's going to be really interesting as we keep things moving here on episode number 195 of Stats Over Politics. Sean Holko alongside Jaevon, Toddy, and Kevin Dent. As we keep things rolling, just want to remind everyone, please make sure to give us a like on YouTube. It helps us a lot. And if you enjoy the podcast, hit subscribe to get notifications when we go live. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Stats Over Politics and on X at Stats or Politics. If you make sure to subscribe, rate, review on all podcast platforms, we'd really appreciate it. And if you're enjoying the show, give us those 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it. As you guys are currently tuned into episode number 195 of Stats Over Politics. Now, let's get into our final NFL topic, Toddy. And this one is related to NFL contenders or pretenders, as we're dealing with a little bit of technical difficulties, and I can't see Kevin on my screen there. Toddy, you can give me a thumbs up if you saw him, but I wasn't seeing it. Oh, you did see him? It was loading, right? Up there. Black he is.
Screen. There we go. Kevin.
We good?
There he is. And shout out to cousin Marcellus, who was just in the background right there for the YouTube, Instagram, and Twitch audience. That's the exclusive that you get by checking out the video podcast instead of only listening to us on audio. So make sure to check that out. But Kevin, you're back just in time, as now we're getting to some 2026 NFL contenders and pretenders. And so, Kevin, if you could please, let's go through your list that you got.
Yes. So like we always talk about, if you guys are a consistent watcher, you've seen us do a very similar topic. We call it this or that. We are just going to call this one contenders or pretenders. I will name these teams. We will talk about either being a contender or a pretender, and we will go from there. So contenders or pretenders, we have the first name, the Dallas Cowboys.
Pretenders. I can give you more analysis after Toddy gives his answer and you give yours, but I mean, that was an easy one. This isn't so much this or that where we just keep it brief, but yeah, straight up pretenders. And shout out to my friend Bob.
Yeah, I'm gonna go pretenders as well. I just don't believe in this defense. And then inevitably it comes down to Dak Prescott, and we haven't been able to see him get over that hump in that playoffs. Whether it's him staying healthy or him just playing bad. I just feel like the NFC is so top heavy. I feel like when you bring up the Cowboys, you mentioned 4 or 5 teams are better than them.
Yeah, I mean, for the Cowboys, it's their year every year, and we joke on this podcast about the meme cycle, where for the audio only listeners, with the Dallas Cowboys cycle, the season starts, they win some games, fans get their hopes up, they say, "We them boys, this is our year," and then they go on to choke in the playoffs or not even get to the playoffs, and so that is a regular cycle when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. And so Kevin and I are unanimous there that the Cowboys are pretenders. We just lost Toddy real quickly due to technical difficulties. So Kevin, let's keep it pushing and get to the next team.
Perfect. Next team up, the Detroit Lions.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to say that the Detroit Lions are contenders. I think that last season was a bit of a hiccup for them. Their offensive line play was very poor, and now they're without David Montgomery, but they do bring in Isaiah Pacheco, who may not be as impactful in the 1-2 punch alongside of Jahmyr Gibbs, but I don't think he necessarily needs to be, because Jahmyr Gibbs has really come into his own. David Montgomery was there as the established veteran, and Gibbs learned a lot from him. Now Gibbs is that dude. I mean, I just took Jahmyr Gibbs first overall this past weekend in my fantasy draft, and that was first overall of the entire draft. And I was debating, do I go Bijan? Do I go Jamar Chase? How about Puka? I went with Jahmyr Gibbs because I think Jahmyr Gibbs is putting himself in line to potentially become the best running back in the NFL this upcoming season. And for that reason, I think that the Lions are contenders.
I'm going to say pretenders, just because, you saw the loss of Ben Johnson. They now bring in their second OC for the second year in a row. So there'll be a lot of changing. There is no more David Montgomery, like Shaun mentioned. Jared Goff's getting older. This defense getting older. Their first-round draft pick 3 years ago is no longer on the team. There's a lot of things going on in Detroit that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, I know they got Amon wrong. They got the trick plays. But this is really going to show if Dan Campbell was really Dan Campbell, or if he's like Shaun and Toddy like to say, Nick Sirianni, who just benefits off his coordinator. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they bounce back. Next team up, the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, I mean, the Buffalo Bills are contenders every single year. They are basically a playoff lock, but if the question is truly, are they contenders or pretenders to actually win the Super Bowl? Because when it comes to contenders or pretenders, like, I think, okay, are they contenders or pretenders when it comes to making the playoffs? The Bills, I'm not questioning them making the playoffs, but it's whether or not the Bills can get over the hump that they always run into, which is the Kansas City Chiefs, or if they end up running into another great AFC team, because as we know, the AFC is absolutely loaded on quarterbacks, and the Buffalo Bills just haven't seemed to get over that hump, whether if it be the Chiefs or something else. And so when it comes to whether they can contend for the playoffs, they're a lock. I'm not questioning that at all. But are they contenders to win a Super Bowl? It could be one of those things where it's like, until I see them actually do it, I'm not going to believe that it's going to happen, because we've seen them fail so many times, one after the other.
I'm going to go pretenders. Their year was last year. No Lamar, no Patrick, no Joe Burrow, and you can't go out there and beat Bo Nix. I mean, they kind of laid the land for them to go to a Super Bowl, and they couldn't get it done. And, we always talk about Josh Allen's turnovers and his miraculous plays, but at the end, those plays come back to bite him, and it does every offseason. So I'm going to go the Bills as a pretender. So we'll get Toddy in on this next team. I was hoping Toddy'd be here for this, because this is his team. Contender or pretender? Chicago Bears.
Oh, man, they're contenders. What do you mean? Caleb Williams, year 2 of Brian. I mean, it's just
Ben Johnson.
Yeah, Ben Johnson. I said Brian Johnson. Thank you, Kevin. I just think Cole Kmet and another year of Colston Loveland is going to be huge for them. I think this is going to be Luther Burden's breakout year, albeit he is hurt currently. I think with the the subtraction of DJ Moore, you'll see a lot more of Luther Burden. You'll see a lot more of Roma Dunze. Dunze was hurt a good chunk of last year, so we didn't really get to see a lot of his talents. So I think with him, and then you obviously have Caleb Williams, they put him on the cover of Madden, which I think was a little bit premature. Albeit I thought he had a really, really good playoff run. I think after this year, the year that he's going to have this year, this would be the year that they put him on Madden. I think just being a couple plays away. I mean, hell, they were a couple plays away from being in the NFC Championship game last year. So, yeah, I mean, the Bears won the division last year. They're rolling. Ben Johnson is one of the brighter, young, up and coming head coaches. I think the Bears are definitely going to be contenders. I think the only thing that concerns me with them is their defense. I don't know if they really added to their defense as much as I would have liked them to in the offseason. But I do think when you have a guy like Caleb Williams, comeback king, the Iceman, I think he led over 5 fourth quarter comebacks last year. I'm not too sure on the amount exactly, but I do know
Sounds about right.
usually when the Bears were down in the fourth quarter, I mean, we saw it in playoff games. Hell, in the Packers game was insane. Just on how the miraculousness on how they came back. I mean, they almost came back against the freaking the Rams, but I just think DJ Moore ran the wrong route, and it is what it is. Caleb throws an interception. That was basically the end of the game there. But I mean, yeah, man, the Bears they're on the up and up for sure. And they might leave the state of Illinois also.
Yeah, the soon to be Indiana Bears are
Indiana
contenders
Bears.
in my opinion. Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
No, I was gonna say, Toddy, I agree with you. They're on the up and up, but when you think contenders, they're not gonna be as good as they were last year. You mentioned it, 6 fourth quarter comebacks. They were down 28 points in the playoffs. They were down big to the Rams. Like, a lot of craziness has to happen for them to even be in that place. I know you remember, Toddy, because you were screaming in the group chat when Caleb Williams went 45 yards backwards and threw a jump ball that just happened to be caught. There's a lot of plays that I don't think are going to be able to happen again. So if you have to say if they're a pretender, I'm going to go pretender. I get it. Ben Johnson's the new shiny toy. Caleb Williams is on the Madden cover. I just don't think it's going to be able to put together those kind of comebacks again 2 years in a row. What about you, Shaun?
I mean, I hear you, Kevin, and that's a very valid point, but also they were a very young team last year. So who's to say that they don't end up just coasting and being able to handle those games, or at least be able to close them out early? You used to say, but I honestly think that they're more likely to just secure games earlier and not have to come back in that fashion so often, because I get it. If you're living or dying on the comeback, like, you're going to start dying a lot more often than you do end up living. And so last season may have been an anomaly in that regard. But if they're taking care of business earlier, then there will be no need for a comeback. And I think, given the fact that we just talked about the Minnesota Vikings earlier as it pertained to Kyler Murray, and when we were doing that, I was thinking in my head just about the overall strength of the NFC North. It's a very strong division, but to me, the Bears are still the front runners in that division. And yeah, recency bias factors into that. But the Detroit Lions, Kevin, you just said that you think that they're pretenders. So it's like, okay, take them off the list. Then you got the Packers, you got the Vikings. I'm a believer in Kyler Murray, but the Vikings, we don't know about them right now. Let's scratch them off the list. Then you got the Packers. So if you're really down to the Packers and the Bears, I'm going to lean towards the Bears. And so, yes, they kind of in the same boat as the Bills. Maybe they may not be contenders to win a championship, but as far as getting to the playoffs, I'm very confident in this year's Chicago Bears team to get to the playoffs. And that's a pretty crazy statement for me to say after we were slandering Toddy for years every time he believed in the Chicago Bears. But that's the point that they've gotten to now, is that they are actually a respectable NFL franchise again. And it has a lot to do with the Iceman, Caleb Williams, who came to life when Ben Johnson got there. And Ben Johnson, Kevin, you were just saying how Detroit is likely not a contender and they are pretenders because of the loss of Ben Johnson. he's still in Chicago. And so for that reason, if I'm basing it off the logic that you said that the Lions are pretenders, that would make the Bears contenders, in my opinion.
I mean, anyone can win the division. The Panthers won the division. None of us going to call them contenders.
Yeah. Okay. Fair point.
So,
And real quickly before we move on, I got this meme on the panel, and so I just want to post it real quick. But Caleb Williams, he's just a cool guy. He's just a chill guy, and so I had that one on the panel, and so I just had to show it real quickly. But keep it going, Kevin.
So last name, contenders or pretenders? The Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm honestly shocked that fucking the 49ers didn't get thrown in this just so Kevin could slander us.
Because Kev knows. He knows why.
I don't want to have to go down that list.
Kev knows though. That's the thing.
And,
I was honestly
biased out of it.
I appreciate that. I was honestly just waiting for the ball to drop at the last one. But hey, Kevin, I'm impressed. Toddy, go ahead. Kansas City. What do you think?
I mean, this is a legit question. Obviously, they missed the playoffs last year. Patrick Mahomes got hurt. They traded away Trent McDuffie. I mean, what is Rashee Rice going to look like? Some people the internet streets are saying Andy Reid is washed, which is kind of crazy, which is insane. I don't know, man. I think this division is very. I mean, their division definitely got better. I mean, I think the Raiders got better this offseason, drafting Fernando Mendoza, obviously adding a Kirk Cousins. Who was the linebacker that y'all had, Kev? That you guys they added guys like Nakobe Dean. Obviously traded away Max Crosby, and then somehow he boomeranged back due to the injustice of the Baltimore Ravens. So I mean, the Raiders are good. The Chargers added Mike McDaniel as their offensive coordinator, is the best offensive coordinator that Justin Herbert's ever had. I'm gonna respect Patrick Mahomes for what he's done in the past. I'm gonna say they're still contenders, but I don't think these are the same Chiefs that everybody, the whole league, feared once upon a time. This is not the same team, obviously. And Patrick Mahomes signed another $500 million contract extension. So they have to allocate their resources more towards draft picks and younger guys because a lot of that money is going towards Patrick Mahomes. So they did add Kenneth Walker in the offseason, so I think their run game will be a little bit more consistent. I mean, he was the Super Bowl MVP for a reason, so we'll see how good he's going to be. But I do think moving forward, I don't think the league looks at the Chiefs the same as they did maybe 3 to 4 years ago. This is not the same team.
I'm going to go pretend.
Yeah,
You got it, Sean.
My bad. I'll just say real quickly, and then Kevin, I'm gonna toss it to you, and I'm gonna step away for like 60 seconds. But I'm gonna agree with Toddy that I think that they're pretenders. For so long we were just waiting for the Chiefs to finally miss the playoffs, and it's unfortunate that Patrick Mahomes ended up going out with a season-ending injury at the end of that run. But I mean, the Chiefs were already about to lose that game in which he got injured to get eliminated from the playoffs. And, Travis Kelce is back, but like he's old man Kelce now. It's not the same. They need a breakout season from Xavier Worthy. They need Rashee Rice to just keep his head on straight and make sure that he's not driving 120 miles an hour like Brandon Ayuk. And so I don't know when it comes to this Chiefs team. For so long, everyone wanted to say, oh, the Chiefs are dead, and then they would continue to prove us all wrong. And then last season, it finally happened where the Chiefs ended up missing the playoffs. But depending on when Mahomes comes back is really important. But I'm going to be pessimistic and say Mahomes misses a couple weeks, at least to start the season, and then he's got to get his feet back under him. I mean, he is Patrick Mahomes after all, so it may not take him long. Future GOAT, as Gary would always say, baby GOAT. But maybe it's also my hate from seeing the Chiefs beat my team in the Super Bowl twice in the last 6 years. But I'm going to say that the Chiefs are pretenders. What about you, Kevin?
I'm going to go pretenders as well. And I know Sean, Toddy, and we've all had this love for Justin Fields at once upon a time. But for them to say they have to rely 4 weeks on Justin Fields, I just don't know what that looks like. Rashee Rice is coming back. A lot of people saying that he's not looking like he used to. Like Toddy mentioned, they got rid of their corner. So Trent McDuffie. There's a lot of ever-changing doors. And I know you have Andy Reid. I know you have their defensive coordinator, but at some point, this isn't going to work anymore. And I know that we're starting to give Patrick Mahomes this Tom Brady tax. Like, they're always going to be able to figure it out. But there was a period of time where Tom Brady wasn't winning Super Bowls. So the Chiefs are due for their kind of downward spiral of this next era of what this dynasty looks like. How long is Andy Reid going to be at the helm? So I'm going to say they're pretenders just because I don't know what Patrick Mahomes is going to look like. He's been known to play a similar game like Caleb Williams. He's going to be extending the pocket. Is that his game anymore? I don't know. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to have to say they are going to be pretenders, and that will do it for the 2026 NFL contenders or pretenders.
Perfect. And so I just stepped away for a moment because I was thinking to myself with our next segment, which is going to be the last of today's episode, that I wanted to represent real quickly. But then I walked back to my closet and I realized, oh, wait, my jersey's not there because it's now at my new home. And so, unfortunately, I'll have to have my Russell Westbrook jersey on in spirit. But Russ just announced his retirement from the NBA within the last couple of weeks after 18 seasons. And so with that, Kevin, we got one of our favorite recurring segments, which is This or That, Russell Westbrook edition. Please get us started.
Perfect. This or That, Russell Westbrook. This is an all-time list. So we're really going to see what we think we know ball is. Some people disregard the old people. Some people lean more to the guys that we saw with our own two eyes. So we're going to do a This or That, Russell Westbrook edition. So first name up, Sean. John Wall.
Oh, give me Russ without a doubt. I mean, John Wall, he had a great NBA career. I mean, he was great, but give me Russ without question on that one.
I'm going to take Russell Westbrook as well. Next name, two-time MVP or Finals MVP, Isaiah Thomas.
Ooh, see, this is where it gets sticky because, like you said, I didn't see him with my own eyes. Like I've seen highlight clips. I know what Isaiah was about back in the day, but I mean, it's not all about stats. It's not all about numbers. But from what I can recall, Isaiah Thomas never came close to sniffing the numbers and the productivity that Russ had. And so, yes, he had that final success and he has championships, which Russ never got, unfortunately. But as far as just comparing player to player and forgetting about the team factor of the resume, give me Russ.
Give me Russell Westbrook as well. Excuse me. Next name, John Stockton.
Ooh, John Stockton. That's tough because when we were originally talking about how to talk about Russ's retirement, like 10 days after it happened, we were thinking about, okay, how can we talk about him in the all-time discussion? And I was thinking like, oh, factor cap. Is Russ a top 5 point guard of all time? John Stockton is arguably a top 3 point guard of all time. And so he leads the NBA in assists all time. It's not even close. And so even though I didn't see him with my own eyes, I got to go John Stockton on this one just because I'm thinking about it like truly from a point guard perspective. If we're just comparing player to player, I'm going to take Russ because Russ is more dynamic. Russ is more versatile. But if we're thinking just a true floor general point guard, give me John Stockton.
Give me John Stockton as well. Next name, Steve Nash.
Oh, man, you're pulling out my heartstrings right there because Steve Nash was one of my favorite players growing up. I remember, I don't know if you ever saw things like this, Kevin, but like back in the day in the 2000s, like they would sell like sports like placards or things like that at the post office. And I got one of like the 2005 Phoenix Suns. And I got it just because Steve Nash was one of my favorite players, even though I'm a lifelong Kings fan. And so this one's really pulling at my heartstrings. All to say, give me Russell Westbrook.
Give me Russell Westbrook as well. Next name, Kyrie Irving.
Oh, man, I wish Toddy wasn't dealing with technical difficulties right now because I know he'd have a lot to say about his guy, Kai, on this one. But, oh, man. Yeah, this is tough for me because, I mean, these are two guys who I've seen their entire careers. And I think back to Russ in the finals, and I think back to Kyrie in the finals. Obviously, Kyrie had a lot more bites at the apple than Russ did, but Kyrie had, and iconic Game 5 alongside the greatest player of all time. And then he had an iconic shot over arguably the greatest shooter of all time in that finals to win it and to complete a 3-1 comeback. Oh, man. All of that to say, again, it's like if we are separating the team success, then give me Russell Westbrook. But if we're encompassing the team success, then I feel like that kind of favors Kai. But my final answer here, I'll go Russell Westbrook.
I'm going to go Russell Westbrook as well. Next name, Damian Lillard.
Dame Dollar, Dame time. Who you taking there? It cut out.
Easy, Russell Westbrook.
Okay. Yeah, man. I mean, Dame's clutch. Dame is also an elite shooter. We cannot say that Russ is an elite shooter, but also Russ could get to the cup in ways that Dame can't. Russ can facilitate in ways that Dame's can't. Russ is arguably the greatest rebounding guard of all time. Give me Russ.
All right. I saved the best for last. Chris Paul.
Oh, yeah, that's tough. And I like that you put Chris Paul in at the end because, I mean, they both just retired. And I honestly, when I saw that Russ retired, I instantly thought to myself, especially after I saw the reports that like the Wizards and the Kings offered him a contract and he just decided to retire rather than play for either team, which was really interesting because it's like, okay, coming back to Sacramento on a team that you know is not going to make the playoffs is one thing, but that Wizards team, they're going to go to the playoffs this year. They are going to be contenders instead of pretenders this year. So I thought that was really interesting when Russ declined to play for one of those two teams. But when he did, it made me think of Chris Paul in the manner in which Chris Paul got done by the Clippers and how the Clippers just absolutely disrespected him. And he had an unceremonious retirement where he basically just got booted out of the NBA, which was really sad. And so I'm glad that Russ didn't have to go through that treatment. All that to say, I probably got to go Chris Paul here. And it's just because prime CP3, man, like you think about him in his later days in New Orleans or when he got to the Clippers and how he was running that Clippers team. And yeah, they didn't ultimately have the team success in terms of a championship, but neither did Russ. And so kind of similar to John Stockton as to why I chose John Stockton over Russ. If I'm just thinking a true point guard, a floor general, give me Chris Paul. If we're talking about the basketball player by itself, if it's Chris Paul versus Russell Westbrook one-on-one, give me Russell Westbrook. But as far as just a true floor general and being a point guard as their natural position, I'm going to take CB3.
Give me Chris Paul. He was one of those elite guys on both sides. You know, he's making all defensive teams and all NBA teams. I get it. You know, Russ is a dominant offensive threat, and he was able to do this and that. They both went to one finals and walked away with nothing. They both were on pretty good teams most of their career. But when they gave the franchise to Chris a lot earlier. So we got to see who Chris Paul was. We didn't see Russ and become Russ until after Kevin Durant left. So we saw more of Chris Paul being Chris Paul than Russ being Russ. So I'm going to go Chris Paul, and that will do it for this or that. Russell Westbrook.
Real quickly, I'll just ask a follow-up to that statement. Do you think that is Russ's fault, though? Because, like, Russ was playing alongside two future Hall of Famers, two future MVPs, and Kevin Durant, I mean, I don't know where you put Kevin Durant in your all-time rankings, specifically because of how much of a LeBron stan you are and how they've gone head-to-head and had their comparisons throughout their careers. But to me, Kevin Durant is a top 10 player all time, like without hesitation. And so to say that, oh, Russ didn't get handed the keys to the car until Kevin left, it's like, okay, but you're playing alongside a top 10 all-time player, bar none at a minimum, a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's not really Russ's fault that he didn't get handed the keys. And then when he did get handed the keys, he went and won MVP. So I'm just saying, I'm being devil's advocate.
Definitely different circumstances because the Hornets were not playing for an NBA Finals on a rookie deal, Chris Paul. But I think just the impact he had defensively goes to show a lot because anyone can shoot the ball all the time, but to be able to do it on both ends, and I don't think Russell Westbrook has an all-team defensive team. So to have that on Chris Paul's career legacy just showed that he played both years, and he did it for a very long time both ways. And, I mean, even in his later days, he was never a cone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a really great point. A lot of people tend to forget about defense unless it's like an all-time great when it comes to defense, like Klay Thompson before the injuries, a Kawhi Leonard, so on and so forth. But you know, people forget that about Chris Paul. So I think that's a really great point. And with that, that's going to do it for episode number 195 of Stats Over Politics. You guys know the deal. Make sure to give us a like on YouTube. It helps a lot. And if you enjoy the podcast, hit subscribe to get notifications when we go live. YouTube just bumped the bar on us. You know, we've been chasing 500 subscribers for 3+ years. And YouTube was like, actually, guys, you need 1,000 to start monetizing your podcast. So make sure to hit subscribe. Yeah, you didn't see that, bro? I thought you saw it. Damn. Yeah, the road and the climb just got more difficult, but we'll talk about that later. Hit subscribe to get notifications when we go live. We're still going to keep bringing you guys the content no matter what YouTube says. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Stats Over Politics and on X at Stats or Politics. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on all podcast platforms. And if you're enjoying the show, give us those 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it. As you guys have been tuned into episode number 195 of Stats Over Politics for the squad, Jaevon Toddy, Kevin Dent, Keith Jogonatis, Alex Dent, Kaz Johnson, and Gary Singh. I've been your host, Sean Holko. And real quickly on the way out, since I just mentioned my guy, Keith Jogonatis, I just wanted to give condolences to the entire Jogonatis family as Keith's dad passed away this past week. And Pete was a great guy, Buckeyes fan, Lakers fan, didn't like that about him, but, you know, you got to learn to love him. And he was a loyal Ohio State fan alongside you and I, Kevin. So I just want to give my condolences to the Jogonatis family and rest in peace to my guy, Pete. And with that, that's going to do it for episode number 195 of Stats Over Politics. Peace.